Hello, Gene Schwimmer here. Welcome to today's vlog. Before I get into today's subject, I just want to take a moment to welcome a new subscriber, Renato Agero. So, Renato Agero, thanks a lot. I appreciate your subscribing to my channel. Now, on to today's subject. I guess you could say it's about circles in a way. Two circles to be exact. Circle number one is the circles formed by Democrats in Congress and especially in the media circling the wagons around their, I was going to say cronies. Cronies is a good word, but comrades is also a good word, or fellow travelers. Just the circling of the wagons as, well, let's remember the phrase that you heard over and over again during the Russian collusion hoax, that the walls are closing in on Trump mainly, closing in on his associates. The walls are closing in. Well, it looks like our friends on the other side of the aisle, they're half right. The walls are closing in. The part where they're wrong is on whom the walls are closing. It looks increasingly like it is closing in on Democrats. Which brings us to circle number two, which is the circle formed by vultures hovering, circling overhead, circling above all these Democrats who look increasingly that they're in hot water or about to be immersed in hot water. We are learning more and more every day, and this is thanks to Grenell, who has been declassifying documents willy-nilly for the past few days. We are learning some interesting and quite disturbing facts. I'm not going to rehearse the whole thing. I'm going to concentrate today on the list of unmaskers. I mentioned it the other day that Grenell declassified the list of everybody in the Obama administration who requested the unmasking of Mike Flynn. The only question remaining, who illegally, 10-year prison sentence, that's the sentence for illegally leaking classified information, who is the leaker? I'm going to get to that. I can't give you the whole list of everybody. It's 39 names, but you can Google it. You can find out all the names. Of those 39, there are really just a handful that are really, really important. That's what I want to talk about today. Now, I'm going to start out with this article by Jonathan Turley, who is my go-to liberal legal commentator. Well, he's one of them. The other one is Alan Dershowitz. So I have two go-to liberal Democratic commentators. I don't always agree with them, but I've always found them to be fair and to follow the facts where the facts go, even if it hurts liberal Democrats. So let's start out with the unmasking of Joe Biden. The declassification of material from the Michael Flynn case has exposed more chilling details of a concerted effort by prosecutors to come up with any crime to use against the former national security advisor. That would be Mike Flynn. This week, however, a letter revealed a new unsettling detail. Among more than 36 Obama administrations asking to, quote, unmask, unquote, Flynn from the investigation was former Vice President Joe Biden. This revelation came less than 24 hours after Biden denied any involvement in the investigation of Flynn. It also follows a disclosure that President Obama was following that investigation. For 3 years, many in the media have expressed horror at the idea of the Trump campaign colluding with Russia to influence the 2016 presidential election. We now know there never was credible evidence of such collusion. In recently released transcripts, a long list of Obama administration officials admitted they never saw any evidence of such collusion. None. This is where we also owe thanks to Rick Grenell. This was another trove of classified documents that Grenell declassified. This is a whole slew of interviews held in secret by Adam Schiff and his committee, but which Schiff refused to release until Grenell threatened to release them himself. Right before he could, Schiff released everything. And ever since, Schiff has been spinning like crazy to deny that these documents say what they obviously say, which is that these officials, questioned in secret, said that they had no evidence, none, of collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. But in public, these same officials have been saying the opposite, and that includes Adam Schiff. He is not one of these people on the list, but he is one who most prominently has been saying that he had evidence of Russian collusion. But you had these other officials too. Fortunately for them, because they have now been exposed as liars, fortunately for them, none of these people were, well, not none of them, but many of them, well, yeah, they were not, none of them were under oath when they made these statements to the media, but some of these officials were under oath when they testified before Congress. Lying to a congressman or a senator under oath, that's perjury, and that is punishable by prison. So let's dive in here to a couple of headlines. This first one, Samantha Power caught lying under oath, testified she had, quote, no recollection, unquote, of making unmasking requests related to General Flynn. Former U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Samantha Power, lied under oath to Congress about unmasking General Flynn. CBS News reporter Catherine Herridge on Wednesday obtained the list of Obama operatives who unmasked General Flynn and released it to the public. Names included former VP Joe Biden, former CIA Director John Brennan, and we'll get to him in a minute, Samantha Power, former DNI, that would be Director of National Intelligence, the job that Grenell is holding right now, by the way, former DNI Chief James Clapper, former FBI Director James Comey, and others. According to the new documents released, Samantha Power sought to unmask General Flynn 7, count them, 7 times. Power, however, previously testified to the House Intelligence Committee that she has, quote, no recollection of making a request related to General Flynn, unquote, when asked by Adam Schiff if she made such requests. Which brings us now to John Brennan, who is on that list along with Samantha Power and several others from the Obama administration as requesting the unmasking of Mike Flynn. Now, I don't have footage. I understand he testified also under oath that he had nothing to do with the unmasking. I could be wrong on that, but I am not wrong on this. Richard Grenell, our hero, Richard Grenell, who has been declassifying all these documents, Richard Grenell drops another bombshell on the Obama administration's involvement in SpyGate. In a new twist in SpyGate, Barack Obama's CIA Director John Brennan suppressed intelligence that Russia wanted Hillary Clinton to win the 2016 election, according to information being declassified by Acting Director of National Intelligence Richard Grenell. You must have heard a million times all these Democratic pundits saying that they had proof that, and Senate committee too, reached the same conclusion, said that Russia wanted or tried to influence our election to elect Donald Trump. We have heard that so many times, but we now know from these newly declassified documents that they wanted to elect Hillary Clinton, which I would submit makes perfect sense, only makes sense when you remember Hillary and her reset button, not to mention her husband Bill and his $500,000 speaking fees for giving speeches in Moscow. when you consider all that, it would make sense that the Russians would want Hillary to win, yet we've heard all this rigmarole over and over and over again, or as Biden would call it, malarkey, that the Russians really wanted Trump to win. So that is out the window. That is, well, I don't know if he can be charged with a crime, but we have Brennan suppressing evidence, suppressing, I guess you can call it in a way, exculpatory evidence that proves the opposite of what they were saying about Trump. And this gets us to the circling vultures part. This is my last headline for today. Senate GOP to press for Biden, other ex-Obama officials to testify on Flynn. Senate Republicans say they will call former senior Obama officials to testify about their multiple requests to, quote, unmask, unquote, former Trump National Security Advisor Michael Flynn's identity on intercepted calls with former Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak. Atop the list of senior Obama administration officials that GOP senators want to hear from are former Director of National Intelligence John Clapper, former CIA Director John Brennan, former Obama White House Chief of Staff Dennis McDonough, and possibly former Vice President Joe Biden. Quote, right now we're in the information gathering phase of this, and obviously from my standpoint raises a lot more questions than it actually answers, unquote, Senate Homeland Security Committee Chairman Ron Johnson told reporters Wednesday. Johnson said, quote, we will start requesting interviews with those individuals, unquote. Quote, I want to find out what you were looking at, why you unmasked an American's identity, and how you used that, unquote, he added. How you use that means leaking it to the press. Asked who he most wants to hear from, Johnson pointed to Clapper, Brennan, McDonough, and, quote, possibly the vice president, unquote. So the first important thing to keep in mind about this possible calling of witnesses is that Ron Johnson is the chairman of the Homeland Security Committee. That means that if he wants to go forward with this investigation, wants to call these people to testify, he can do it. Nobody can stop him. He can do it. Which brings us now to a big question, a question that I have that no one has asked, and in fact I emailed a certain prominent commentator, legal expert. I don't want to mention the name because I didn't get permission to reveal the correspondence. It was a private correspondence, but I had this question and this person was kind enough to answer. So here is my question, because we want to know who leaked Flynn's name to the media. Now, one would think that the only way to find out is to conduct a lengthy investigation, look at evidence, look for documents, interview a number of witnesses. But I thought of another way, and that is simply to call every one of the 39 names on that list of people who requested the unmasking. Now, it could be wrong, but it seems logical that the person who leaked, the leaker, is one of the names on that list. So why not call in all 39, put them under oath, and just ask them outright, are you the person who leaked Flynn's name to the media? Of course, anybody who is not the leaker can simply say truthfully, I am not the leaker. But the person who is the leaker, if that person is one of these names, when asked under oath if that person is the leaker, will be faced with a difficult choice, or I should say 3 difficult choices. Choice number 1 is just to answer truthfully, admit to being the leaker, and then taking the consequences, maybe throw him or herself on the mercy of the court and try to get something less than a 10-year prison sentence. That is choice number one. Choice number two would be for that person to say that he or she is not the leaker. In other words, to lie. In other words, to add a potential perjury charge to the charge of leaking to the media classified information. That brings us to the third choice, which is to take the fifth. Claim the Fifth Amendment, and then the government would be forced either to just drop the whole thing or bring a case and try to prove the case in court. But as a practical matter, we would all know, if that person takes the fifth, that that person is the leaker. And for political purposes, for purposes of the election, for discrediting all these people, that would be enough. Now, all that said, just one little addition I have to mention to be complete and fair, because the lawyer that I contacted with my question, that lawyer, first of all, said I was right. Everything I just told you, the lawyer said I was right, but added one little item, which is that all of these people are now private citizens, so they can just say no. They can decline a request to testify before Congress unless, the lawyer said, they are subpoenaed. If they are subpoenaed, then they would have to testify. They would have no choice, and the committee chairman, Ron Johnson, does have the power to subpoena. So at the end of the day, if Ron Johnson is watching, and Ron, if you want to take my advice, then you can make these people testify one way or the other. You can ask them, and if they refuse, you can subpoena them, or you can say, I'd like you to come by, but if you don't want to stop by, then I'll subpoena you, and you'll have to. So I just wanted to get that in there just to be complete. And that's it for today. Thumbs up if you like this video. Share it with anybody you think would also like the video. If you have any comments, you can put your comments in the comment section below the video. Ask questions, suggest future topics. You can also subscribe. I am happy to have a new subscriber, but I could always use more. And finally, most important, come back and see me again. I look forward to seeing all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.